Hello, this is Jeremy Webster with Collector's Maze, and I am here today with voice actor extraordinaire Gavin Hammon. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
Oh, it's Tuesday in Kansas in between seasons. So we just went from 90 degrees, sunny and humid to 60, thunderstormy, and I need my handkerchief.
Yeah, that's not dissimilar to California, except that it does rain where you are, and it doesn't rain here. But it was 90 over the weekend, and it was 70 today.
Oh,
Probably be hot this week. It's just dry. So, but
you
yeah.
know, is that what they used to call the Great American Desert?
No, I think the Dust Bowl was the Great American Desert.
Now you're
It's
back
I mean,
in.
it's very, very very deserty out where we are too, though. I mean, it is California, so
The Dust Bowl was our neck of the woods. Lots and lots of fun with that one.
yeah.
I've heard some stories. Yeah, my grandparents know them. So you were Kenny in the Walking Dead games,
That
right?
is true. I was Kenny in the Walking Dead game, which was a lot of fun and went on a whole lot longer than I ever thought it would. So
Didn't they? Weren't there like three or four of those games?
there were 4 seasons, and
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of being in like two and a fifth of one or something like that, because I was in 2 seasons, and then they sort of wrapped me up the beginning of the third season, or wrapped Kenny up.
Right. So a lot of our viewers are going to be aware of you from the Walking Dead games, but folks,
I would assume so.
yeah,
Yeah, that's most people seem to know me from that, which is
I
cool.
probably get a lot of con work out of it, don't you?
I don't really do a lot of conventions, to be honest.
Yeah.
I used to do them if I were like doing something with Telltale, as like if we were doing a panel or something like that. I would certainly go, but I don't have like a great appearance agent or anything like that. So I don't
Mhm.
spend a lot of time trying to go and do them. And then with COVID the last couple of years, it was easy to just kind of, not do them, or just do them virtually, online or whatever.
The virtual online cons have really been taking off in the last year, and then, yeah, COVID's been a lot of it. I've had a lot of guests on here who have they kind of thrive on the con scene, not just in terms of, but it's for them it's a major sort of contact point with their audience.
Yeah, for sure.
uh and so I think the virtual has kind of allowed a lot of those people who thrive on that sort of social contact to sort of at least have something that was a standby for the time being.
Yeah, where they can still connect, and they can still, do virtual signings or photos or whatever sort of. I don't know how people are monetizing that sort of thing these days, but yeah, I've never really been one of those guys. I've done probably a dozen conventions, in my 17-ish years that I've been doing this. Yeah, I'm always just trying to work as opposed to, be in, in Memphis or something like that, or be in Dublin, Ireland or something. So I'm
And
happy to go when I get to go.
I think that's a thing that kind of people see actors, and of course they always think of big movie stars and such for the most part, but they don't think about the fact that acting is kind of a multidimensional thing, that and work itself can be, you go where the work is, right?
Sure. Oh yeah.
And you
And you do
have
whatever it takes, right? Especially as a voice actor. I mean, it's like I'll do commercials or toys or games or narration, whatever people want me to say. I'm happy to do it. So
and your list of credits is like about the length of my arm.
yeah, and mostly, I mean, if it's on IMDb, that's just like, video games that get reported, and animation or anime that gets reported to IMDb. It's like
Mhm.
I couldn't even tell you all the stuff that's not there. I've already forgotten about all of it, or the things that I wasn't actively trying to get reported on there, so they just have never shown up.
So
But
they just never show up. So how'd you
yeah.
get into voice acting?
So I like was always a pretty good mimic, and I would always mimic, actors in movies or
Uh-huh.
cartoons. I grew up in the 1970s, so most of the stuff that I would see would be, cartoons from the 40s, 50s, 60s, you know, and then stuff
Yeah.
from the 70s and 80s as they started making it. So we grew up in this, or I grew up in this really kind of weird sort of, you know, huge time that spanned decades in terms of the source material we'd get. And I was just always a good mimic. And then I was in a band for a long time in the 90s, after high school or during high school and college. And then eventually I just kind of went and was working in construction. And then my dad like heard a voice actor, you know, who had a school on the radio, and was like, you should listen to that because it seems like something that you might do. So I went and took classes, and you know, thought, yeah, this would be awesome to be able to do this. I feel like I was kind of born to do it. And then, you know, years of taking classes and sort of grinding away, and eventually it's my job. So
Then eventually the gears sort of clicked.
yeah, it takes like a while to sort of, because it's like you can't get work if you don't have work. And it's kind of like an agent isn't going to pick you up if you're not working. And this was in the 90s too. So this was like pre internet, pre everybody doing stuff at home, you know, pre sort of Source Connect and Zoom and all that sort of stuff. So it was like I still had to get calls to go to the agency and show up, and then like read what they wanted me to audition. And then like you know, my kids were born in 2004 when I kind of started doing this sort of thing, when I actually started getting to go to the agency. And so it's like I was taking my, you know, my newborn son to San Francisco, if I was lucky, you know, 5 days a week, you know, just so that I could go and like read something. And, you know, either my dad might meet me and walk him around the block, or, you know, someone cool in the waiting room would kind of sit with them for, you know, a minute while I had my 5 seconds or to go in there and read a quick TV spot or something. So yeah, it was a bit of a grind at first, but then once I started making money, I was like, anything I can get, I'm going to buy to make my gear at home better. So it's like I can be more valuable, because you could kind of see at the time that that's the way things were going to go, you know. And then with COVID, it's like everything's from home now. So it's a completely different world.
You know, and probably in a way you came at it from in a way a more educated standpoint than a lot of people would, because of your music background. You would have had a lot of knowledge about the audio gear and stuff that would work better out of a home studio than a lot of people would have.
Maybe I was a drummer, so I don't know that I really knew anything about that, but I did, at least I had spent enough time in studios to know that I didn't like being in them. So I knew that like my job was to get out of the studio as quickly as possible and just sort of do my job and be done.
Uh-huh.
So it was definitely, I guess there's so many voice actors who start out, you know, in music first, you know. I mean, there's like the hugely famous ones that are out there, Jess Harnell and stuff like that, where it's just kind of like, you know, some of us just end up kind of gravitating towards it because we hadn't really had, you know, real 9-to-5 jobs per se. You know what I mean? I mean, I
Yeah.
worked in construction for a long time, but it's like you get used to the kind of fluid lifestyle of like being a musician, where you're kind of like, well, I'm just hoping to work, and so I'm available right now if I
Yeah.
have to go and read something or go and be someplace. So I was, I guess, a little bit well suited for the lifestyle of it. But
Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of people that didn't realize. There are a lot of music acts out there that aren't these giant music acts, but they might be huge following or be very successful in their genre. But if
sure.
you really look at their lives, they're doing 9-to-5 jobs
Oh
outside
yeah.
of that.
I mean, maybe longer hours than that, you know, because it's like if you're on the road, and then it's like you're paying for however you're traveling in addition to paying whatever your mortgage is at home. I mean, it's a really, really hard way to make a living being
Mhm.
a musician, touring musician. Even if you're like a studio musician, you know, it's still it's a tough living. It can be. And being a drummer, you know, it's like you may not be getting publishing. So my band was cool, so I would at least get a little bit of songwriting money as well. You know,
Yeah.
but for the most part, it's like you're just a hired gun. So it's like you're hoping that whatever your wage is a livable wage. Yeah, it's tough. Being a voice actor is, you know, it's also tough because it's hard to get work, but it's like a much easier. I don't know. I don't have to go as many places.
That
I'm not setting up and breaking down drums every day.
yeah, I would imagine, particularly drumming, and it has to be less physically grueling.
Yeah, drumming could be really, and I was in a punk band too, or a punk ska
Oh,
band. So it was like,
mm.
it was really fast. And
There's
even in my youth, it was like, man, you know,
yeah.
it's too fast. And go back and listen to things and be like, I don't even know what I was doing. What's the
Well,
matter with me playing that fast? But
Marky Ramone would come out with stories about
yeah,
because I think he took a sabbatical from the Ramones for a while because he was to deal with alcoholism or something, and they would have to
sure.
have people come in, and he said that basically everybody would come say, "Oh, I can do that," and they said, "Really?" And because they had to, they had to keep that pace.
Yeah,
That pace to their songs never stops, and
right.
it would actually become like a physical grind on them about
Oh,
15,
sure.
10, 15 minutes in the set. They were dead on their feet.
We did a bunch of shows with them on festivals and whatnot. In like the probably mid 90s, they had a record out on MCA and we were on MCA. And so
Uh-huh.
we did a fair amount of shows with them and saw them. The thing that always blew me away was that like when he would count off a song, he would just count like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it would be like whatever the tempo of the song was, which was always completely different from whatever he counted off. He always counted off the same thing, but then the song would be a completely different tempo. And you never really knew what song it was going to be because it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4.
It was like the same 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah.
So cool.
And then they'd go into Danny Says.
Exactly. Yeah. Or count off super fast and then I want to be sedated or something.
Yeah. It's not all Blitzkrieg Bop, but we're just going to throw in the numbers just as a surprise. Signature.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But it was super fun. I mean, it was very, very cool to to get to play with them a few times,
They were legend. Yeah. They deserve better
yeah.
than that over here, sales wise, but it was what it was. That had to be.
There's a really funny meme that I saw that was like a Ramones. It was like two pie charts, and it was like I want to be for the Ramones, and I want to be or I wanna for the Misfits.
Yeah.
And it was for the Ramones, it was all these. I want to be your boyfriend. I want to be sedated. I just want to get some chicks. And it was like for the Misfits, it was your skulls.
Your skulls.
So I was always really sort of enjoyed, but.
Danzig he had a pretty straight line as to what he wanted.
Yeah, it was pretty clear. He's like 4.5 feet tall. So
yeah.
There's another good one. There's another good sort of like Ramones and Danzig sort of reference. During COVID times, I remember they were using metrics, sort of like how far away you should stay from each other, which was like 6 feet. So it was like basically about one Joey Ramone or two Glenn Danzigs.
Or two Glenn Danzigs.
Don't tell him I said that. He would never remember meeting me, but I wouldn't want him to beat the crap out of me.
Nah, but you just hold up your phone with the picture of him holding the cat litter. What are you going to do? Cat litter. Yeah. So what are some of your favorite roles you've done voice-wise?
So I don't know. I really just feel grateful to get to do it. Or fortunate to get to do it. I am grateful, of course, but I also feel very fortunate to get to do it. Yeah, Kenny was super fun. I've done a bunch of interactive toys like Furby, which was a lot of fun because it was like basically just me kind of stream of consciousness with very limited, dialogue that I would have to get through. But that was a lot of fun. I've worked with Blizzard once or twice, which was really cool for me because that's one of my favorite publishers. I don't know, it's hard. It's like I love working with certain people on projects, even if it may not be a project that people would remember or care a lot about, because it's just like I loved working with certain people. I don't know, it's hard because there are very few jobs I don't like, so it's kind of like they're all pretty good to be honest.
You got to do a Donatello in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game.
I did. That was pretty cool. Nolan North was in that too, which I thought was pretty neat. There's a whole bunch of people that were in there, but yeah, I got to be Donatello, who is my favorite turtle. I grew up reading the comics. I was a big comics guy in the 80s, and I remember I bought like issues of that off the rack when it was the Eastman and Laird weird golden age, size, black and white. I had a few of those. And there was like a one shot that was like a Donatello one shot where he like goes into a drawing and like has to build all these tools. I always loved Donatello. I thought he was the coolest, at least in the comics. So
Yeah, and the comics had a different tone. The
oh, for
cartoon
sure.
comes
Yeah.
along, and it becomes this very camp kitsch.
Yeah,
It was way out. The
the movies and the cartoon and then the comics too,
yeah,
all kind of like went that way. But yeah, it was pretty dark at first, at least when it was black and white, it was a lot of fun.
like I actually have someone Dark Horse, I want to say, put
Yeah.
out the original series, the Eastman Laird series, in hardcover, like in a
I
5
think, was it Dark Horse or was it Mirage? Because Mirage had it all, I think, for the longest time. And they might have been able to republish the trades, but
I think you might be right. They're huge, like oversized format, but
yeah.
Going back and reading like the first several issues, and it's like there's this very serious, like it's obvious that they're going with this the Japanese, dishonored samurai getting vengeance on the Shredder, and there's this whole thing in there where the mutagen that changes them is off a truck, that falls off the truck, that splashes in the face of a little boy, and it's all Daredevil. But that's going on over here.
Daredevil, like Toxic Avenger too. It was like the same trope that everybody stole from
Radioactive
was it Stan that was who was the trying to think of who the original Daredevil writer creator was. Oh man.
Oh, it was Stan Lee wrote it, and Wally Wood, I want to say, drew it first.
Yeah, Wally Wood drew like the first, like the yellow costume ones originally or whatever. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess it was probably Stan. Yeah,
that was the thing with him, the cosmic rays and the radioactive chemical, and spider bites are radioactive. And he said in interviews later on that the reason that the X-Men were mutants wasn't some giant social parable, but because he just got tired of coming up with reasons for people to have superpowers.
He got tired of something happening.
Yeah, basically.
He got splashed in the face with a thing. The thing exploded near him. He got bit by a thing. It's he has no heart because of a thing.
Yeah,
but he's rich. Yeah,
but he's rich, so he just got tired of it.
He was born that way. Who cares?
They're born that way, and Chris Claremont comes along and makes it the giant social parable, and it all gets
right.
The X-Men we know today. But yeah, it is kind of interesting. Everything was radioactive.
Well, that was Marvel too. I mean, Marvel was always trying to be the superhero company of the common man. Where it was kind of like, especially in the 60s and 70s, where they were sort of dealing with all kinds of social justice and all sorts of stuff like that. A lot of those are super fun too, whereas DC was just like, no, there's another multiverse, there's another universe. It's like Earth 9, Earth 12.
My wife and I actually had that discussion yesterday, because there was, I don't remember, something about DC Comics, and I was like, as a kid it was always hard to keep track of them because you never knew. It was always so tied in everything else. As a kid, it's like, yeah, but I can get Spider-Man beating up the Scorpion this issue, and it might cliffhanger
every week,
or it might say this, but you still got the thing. If you picked up Batman, it might be, and the Joker does this, but Superman and Mr. Mitzelplick and something else.
Right.
If you hadn't been reading it for 30 years, you had no clue
time
what the references were. And
it always drove me a little crazy that DC Comics, like, someone would do the cover and then it would be a completely different artist inside. Whereas, like, I felt at least with Marvel, I could pick it up and I could look inside and it would look like it did on the cover.
Yeah.
I always felt like it's a bit of a betrayal as a young consumer. Like, God, it doesn't look anything like this.
They sold you on
Ryan Baldwin cover and Jim Aparo inside. No offense to Jim Aparo, but he's not Brian Baldwin for me.
That was a thing. Or the Jim Lee covers. I had several Batmans that were McFarlane covers, and it would be somebody, and it wouldn't necessarily be that, but comic books are so, at the time, were so much sold on what the cover looked like on the rack.
Oh yeah,
that you'd pull it down and open it and go, oh. I remember in the early 2000s when they brought back the Punisher, and they had Tim Bradstreet doing those ultra moody covers, and bought one and opened it, and it was Steve Dillon, And I was like, what? This is totally not exactly what but as you know, you read the series, you got used to the style.
Oh yeah, I love Steve Dillon. So it's kind of like Steve Dillon was probably the reason I was buying those in the first place, just because I always liked him. But
he was so amazing, and that was so sad.
Yeah,
because
it's such a shame. He passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, he
Passed
did.
away maybe 10 or so years ago or something like that. Felt like a while ago. What a shame. Yeah, I loved him. I loved his Punisher run. Pretty much anything that he would do with Garth Ennis, I was totally on board.
Punisher and Preacher, and the two bounced off each other. The books just felt right.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
You got this Tim Bradstreet cover, which is all shadows and
yes,
and looked like they had been shot somewhere on the backset of a particularly violent Scorsese film.
6 months for him to paint that cover. Yeah. And Steve Dillon like knocks the issue out in 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, this is amazing. I think he passed away like mid storyline too of a comeback. It was really.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, he was so prolific.
Oh, he was hugely
all kinds of stuff that I didn't even know he did. And I was just like, oh, nice bonus. I hope it's good. It's at least it'll look okay to me.
It is what it is, I guess, with him. But what do you have lined up for future?
There's always stuff. There's a bunch of stuff like in the ether that I can't say that I worked on. I did work on New World. That just is a MMO that I guess people were playing and really enjoying. Once the initial sort of weekend of servers being overloaded, now people I guess really enjoying it. There's a bunch of other stuff, but I can never say what it is until it comes out. I can never, I never really know when it comes out. It just comes out and then they email you and say, oh yeah, you could say you were in that thing that you did like 3.5 years ago. And I'm like, I don't even remember what it was.
I don't even remember what it was.
I don't even know who I was, who I played. At least these days, it's like I have the audio because I'm recording everything at home. So it's like, at least I can go back and be, what the hell is that? I don't remember any of this, but at least I have it. I can cross-reference just something, right?
That has to be one of those weird things. John Carpenter tells an anecdote about after he made Halloween, where basically he was sort of like, they made the movie, they put the movie out, or Mustafa Akkad or whoever distributed it, and he didn't hear anything back about it. And all right, nothing. And they came to him like a year later, or 2 years, a year or two later, because I think Halloween was like 78, 79, and Halloween 2 is like 81, 82.
Yeah.
And they came to him, and he's like, all right, you want to make another horror movie? And he's like, what do you mean? I thought we bombed. Nobody ever said anything. Like, you have the highest grossing independent film.
Yeah, right.
And he had no idea. Yeah. That this had happened at all. And
such a weird dude, though. I could totally see it.
Yeah, he just completely like disconnected from it. What? I don't know, because he'd moved on to The Fog or something.
Oh yeah,
back up. Yeah, like, oh hey, that movie you made that made lots of money? No.
I've been in Maine making The Fog. Yeah.
The Fog.
There's no phone reception up here. There's no landlines that far.
No landlines.
I love John Carpenter, and what I always really liked about him too was like the music. I loved the music that he would do, even though it's very simple and maybe like not the most really sort of elegant score. But I always loved his music.
It's his synth riffs. I actually have I've been picking up his solo records that
really?
he's been doing. Yeah. So yeah, he has a band with his son, Cody Carpenter, and they actually scored the sequel that's about to come out, Halloween Kills, and the one.
Oh yeah, I saw the trailer for it.
And but they're releasing albums. I think they're up to like 3. Wow. And it's kind of interesting because like
rock, I would assume it's prog. It seems like he would be in a prog band.
It's prog. It's like if you took his, because he was really into the simplistic synth riffs,
right?
And it's that, but it's thicker. It's like you add more of the background instrumentation and things like that, and you make because his movie soundtracks, except for a movie like Halloween 2, always feel kind of thin. They're very much there's like
it's
2 lines.
It's him with like an octave and a half worth of notes.
Yeah. and that's all they really are.
Yeah,
But
basically.
but it's like if you took that, and even though it's all synth stuff, if you filled it out,
Sure.
and they're really cool. If you haven't checked them out, I think they're on the Sacred Bones label.
Sacred Bones. All right. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Lost Themes. That's what they're called, Lost Themes.
All
Which to
right.
me, it's like they're not really lost. You're making these up as you go.
I'm not lost. You clearly know where they are.
But they did a re-recording of a, like, it's 10 or 12 of the old movie themes, like
Oh, nice.
the Fog, Halloween, and Mouth of Madness, Assault on Precinct 13, several of these, and recorded them all in that style. And it's like, this is like, if I was 12 years old, I would be so excited. You know, that's exciting anyway, but the kid me who was watching all these movies on HBO and whatnot at the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I was finding all of them. Oh, yeah, there's a ton of them. Lost
Yeah.
Themes 1, 2, 3, Alive After Death.
Live.
Yeah, there's all kinds of them here.
We have lived through a golden age, yes.
Right?
We actually got back last night at the drive-in. They're doing a scary movie fest, and they showed the original 51 Howard Hawks, The Thing, followed by the Carpenter movie. And you know, see that in a drive-in, right?
Yeah, I think I've seen that in a well, we might have saw it in the drive-in. My wife and I used to go to the drive-in a lot. I know I took her to see The Shining in the drive-in or at a theater. That was the first time she'd ever seen it. And I mean, this is, you know, in the 90s, so it's like it had been out for a little while.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing like being trapped watching that, like a movie like that for the first time.
That's kind of an interesting thing with
awesome.
those movies. The Shining is like that.
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw is like that.
Out in the snow, you're stuck.
Mhm.
You know, there's like nothing you can do.
And as an audience member, you're similarly trapped by the movie. You don't have a pause button. You don't have anything you can do. And it's like Texas Chainsaw or the first Evil Dead on an actual theater is like, I'm really sleepy when you for the adrenaline and every other thing you got going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So anything else you got going on?
No, not really. It's the end of the gardening season, so I'm pulling tomatoes out and planting, you know, things for fall. That's about it. I'm a gardener. So.
Gardening's not bad.
But yeah, no, I'm just working and plugging away, you know, grateful to get to do what I'm doing. Looking forward to coming to Wichita next year at this time.
Yeah. So what are you thinking about that?
It should be really fun. I'm excited because Melissa's going to be there, Melissa Hutchison and Sissy Jones, who are, you know, very good friends of mine, you know, outside of voiceover. So just sort of any opportunity to be out with, you know, them in, you know, some place that's not familiar to me. It sounds fantastic.
Wichita doesn't even have a subway.
No, that's fine. I mean, we barely have a subway in the Bay Area. Most of it is above ground. But yeah, I think I've been to Wichita once before. I know I've been to Lawrence and Kansas City, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've been to Wichita too. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. That was 25 years ago. So
25 years ago. Not a whole lot probably has changed in 25 years.
Maybe
things
not.
here tend to move a little bit slowly, but it just changes for you. How
the closer you get to the middle, the slower things seem to move, for sure.
But we didn't get it. We didn't get a movie where the Godzilla and the Hulk both, weren't they? Tried to basically almost destroy the Golden Gate Bridge in two different
movies. Yeah, they did. That's true. Yeah. They did like it. They always do, and what's weird is it's like it's usually on the wrong side. It's like they're fighting in an area where the Bay Bridge is, which is the bridge that goes from Oakland to San Francisco. But the Golden Gate Bridge is like the bridge from Sausalito in Marin County to San Francisco. So it's just the icon, but they put it in the place where it looks a little better because there's more city around. But
of course,
it's always fun. We always enjoy that.
Like the way the Batman, the Nolan movies were always set, you know, vaguely in a Chicago type area, but yet it's all in Toronto. They shoot everything in Toronto, of course.
Exactly. So. It's just Gotham. It doesn't matter.
It's just Gotham. It's not real anyway. Why do you care?
It's not like Metropolis.
That always threw me about the Batman versus Superman movie is that in the comics, you always had this contrasting concept of the cities. Gotham was this very dark,
Yeah.
1930s almost depression gangster thing. Metropolis was this shining, ultra modern, leaning toward utopian city. And the movie, there's literally there's a river that separates the two. And I think my jaw just dropped because my mental image from the comics were these two places that were so different.
Yeah. Well, it's like supposed to be New York and Chicago was like the vibe I always got. It was like the one was pretty far from the other. It would take you a while to drive between them. Not that they were sister cities.
No, that was really weird to me in that. But that movie had lots of issues.
Yeah, I was gonna say if that was the thing that really kind of bugged you about it, that's probably for the best.
He smashes a guy through a brick wall and saves the only person you ever see him save is his girlfriend. And Lex Luthor's solution to the Superman problem is to create a creature more powerful than Superman he himself cannot control. And Batman blames Superman for everything, despite the fact he couldn't be bothered to put on his bat suit and get in the jet and actually do something about it. Not many problems with that movie.
No. Honestly, I never saw it. I don't think I've seen like a DC movie all the way through, besides Shazam, which is pretty fun.
Now, that's actually one I haven't seen yet, and I really need to.
Yeah, I think it was like a Nolan Batman was the last one I sat through besides Shazam. Shazam's funny. It's fine.
At some point, Batman stopped being fun in any way. And
well, it's just always darker and darker and darker and darker,
Yeah.
It's my whole lifetime, it's been darker and darker and darker,
Yeah, like the Pattinson movie, and they had the trailer for it. That's never come out yet, but he has a trailer and there. He says, they ask him who he is. He says, "I am vengeance." It's like, that's not Batman sort of vibe. That's more, that's one of your dark Marvel guys. That's what Frank Castle's out doing and saying he's not doing.
Anyway. That's right.
Well, thank you very much for stopping by.
Thanks so much for having me, Jeremy.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Gavin Hammon, you're going to be stopping by Wichita for our con next October.
Please come. I'll be there.
Absolutely. Bring some.
Tell me where to have barbecue, because I hope to eat it.
We have some barbecue places. We're not as famous as Kansas City in the barbecue area.
That's okay. I understand that Kansas has its own barbecue.
It does. I think Wichita's more a microbrew city.
Oh, sweet. I love beer. I'm a large fan of malted beverages. So.
Oh, you will be a very happy man here. Sober, I don't know.
Sweet. Well,
is what it is.
It is what it is.
What happens in Wichita stays in Wichita, usually because people forgot it the next day.
Yeah, that sounds perfect for me.
Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thanks, you too. All right.